Crowell here. Today we review a golden lager and discuss the I Promise School. Hello and welcome to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Good evening, Pigweed.
Good evening, Crowhill.
Now, what's on your mind today?
Well, Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
It is... They're in the playoffs.
Uh-huh.
The Baltimore Orioles are going to be in the playoffs or won the division.
And the Ravens are doing well.
And the Ravens are doing well. So Baltimore sports-wise, there's lots to cheer about.
Yes.
When it comes to spiking crime rates, corruption. Now, the previous mayor, who was run out for corruption, is going to run again.
Okay.
And probably has a good chance.
Yeah.
So that's what you're facing.
Mm-hmm.
And you would maybe education. Maybe that's where you could find a glimmer of hope beyond the
Wouldn't that be nice?
Beyond sports.
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to find it right here in front of you. This is the public schools. 13 schools.
Yeah.
That's 40% of the schools.
Okay.
Are not doing so well in math.
Not doing so well by what's the rule here? How
right.
not so
You would
well?
say what's failing? Like under 50%?
No. It's failing because back in our day, 90 to 100 was an A, 80 to 90 was B.
So 59 is still failing.
Yeah, 59 is failing.
All right, go down, go lower.
Okay, I don't know, 30. No,
lower
lower than that.
Yeah.
Than that. About I don't know, 10.
Okay, 0.
0.
So 0 students. 13 schools could not produce a single student who tested proficient in math.
Wow.
And that's so. But of course, these are the truancy rates are terrible.
Yeah.
So let's figure the number of students who didn't even show up the day of the test.
Yeah.
So those numbers. So I mean you can't go below 0. But what I'm saying is, so the students show up. They do very poorly. There are kids who would have done even more poorly had they even shown up.
Yeah.
It's only a 1, 2, 3, or 4 score. 77% got a 1, which means you wrote your name on the paper.
Yeah.
These are bad. These are.
So what are they doing in the class?
What are they doing?
They can't be handing out condoms all the time.
Right.
Right. I don't know what they're doing. Now I did notice on this article that 10% of or some number of students, a significant number of students, are only there 10% of the time.
So,
what does that mean? 10% of the time. 1 day in 10. That's 1 day every 2 weeks they're in school.
I mean, what could you possibly learn? You
Yes.
couldn't learn, macrame
Yeah.
if you were only there once every
I
2
can't
weeks.
imagine only going to school 1 day every 2 weeks.
You could
What
learn
kind of school is that?
tic-tac-toe
Yeah.
if you went every. So, but when you're talking about, it's not like they were passing before they got to the grade that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so they've been
failing all the way.
failing and moving on in grades for years.
And what possible hope do these kids have to be anything? They probably can't read, they can't add, they have no skills. What are they going to do?
Yes. So why would you?
Why would you hire somebody who went to one of these schools?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And could you? These kids
How can you run a
all going to
business?
drop out?
I don't know.
Or can you perform like this, not show up, not pass anything, and still get a diploma?
Probably. Probably they'll get diplomas. But
I don't know what.
How do you hire them?
No, just forget it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing wrong.
Right.
But this ain't it.
Okay.
I'm thinking if somebody would step up with a fresh approach.
Yeah.
Maybe that would show something.
Well, we do have a candidate.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Mr.
LeBron James.
Mr. LeBron James.
Which is
billionaire who from Akron, Ohio, still lives in Ohio. he's about to retire.
Mhm.
He wants, he's a competitive man.
Yeah.
You don't just you don't just retire and do nothing just because you're a billionaire.
Yeah.
So
And he didn't get to be the man that he is by being somebody who just sits around and does nothing.
Yeah. So he takes on projects.
He's a hard-working guy.
And so what is his project is the I Promise School, and it welcomed 240 third and fourth grade students with the plan to expand grades through 8, little by little.
Yeah, but not just any 240 students. They particularly picked students who were either had a disability or had problems. They'd been testing poorly on other disadvantaged students.
So they're already behind.
Yeah, and he's trying to give them a leg up. And the investment that they're making in these students, they're giving them free tuition, free uniforms, free breakfast, lunch, and snacks, free transportation within 2 miles to the school, a free bicycle and helmet,
Right.
access to the food pantry for their family, guaranteed tuition for all graduates at the University of Akron, and they have special assistance to help their parents get their GEDs.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of investment in trying to help these kids do well.
That really is. Did you see any pictures of the school?
No.
The school looked beautiful.
Really?
All kinds of inspirational art and sayings, raised lettered sayings on
Right.
the walls about you can be anything today. You come into a clean school.
Right.
Very, very nice. And so they're trying to change the environment, change their home environment.
Right.
There's a what do they call it? James's vision for a more holistic and equitable form of education.
Yeah, and the idea is to make the kids feel at home. This actually it's a longer school day.
Yeah,
it's a
9
to 5, and it's a longer school year too. They take more breaks staggered throughout the year, so they're trying to make this like home for these kids.
Right. Our goal is to let every single kid know that they are special, and it starts with addressing everything they're going through before they even step foot in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole child approach to learning that recognizes when a child's basic needs are met at home, they can remain entirely focused on their education.
That's the idea.
So that's that sounds great. I've got so after 1 year, it says within the first year, the school saw 90% of its inaugural class meet or exceed growth goals in reading and math.
Okay, well that's certainly better than Baltimore.
Yes, it is. So I think in the future we should really imagine that some great things are going to come. And so what the plan is, hopefully to create a model, right, that will be expanded and maybe what do they say? Scaled up.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now it's just one school. It is a public school.
Yeah. So
with additional money from the LeBron James Foundation.
Right. So this principal said we're going to be that groundbreaking school that will be a nationally recognized model for urban and public school excellence.
Right.
We are letting people know that it's about a true wraparound support, true family integration, and true compassion. That's the goal. Sounds pretty good.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, I think there was one other. We want to create an environment of family and not like a workplace.
Well, there's just what was the other things they've got? Yoga.
Okay.
De-stressing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kids shouldn't have stress. Yeah.
So there's de-stressing. There's the food pantry. You said.
And I think a lot of this is based on LeBron's own experience. Apparently, when he was in school, he was struggling until Frank and Pam Walker took James in and encouraged him to focus on his education at a city school in Akron. So he's saying, look, this is what made a difference in my life. I want to make that same difference in other kids' lives.
Right. Then he went on to a Catholic school.
Yeah.
Basketball.
Right. Yes. So he's now trying to act in that role by donating millions to the project and securing support from corporate and educational sponsors. But there is one thing I'm a little disturbed about these stories.
Right. What's that?
the dates. They all say
wait
like
a minute.
2018.
That one that's from 2018. This
Yeah,
one, this
mine-
first year is this says 2019.
Okay. Yeah, mine are all 2018.
Okay.
So, do we have anything newer?
Well, I just want to say this about the new
Right.
the whatever these successes of this, because how can it not be successful given all of this? But I don't want to pour cold water on this thing. I'm just saying, with all of these resources, with all of this money, is it actually scalable? Is it actually repeatable? Can you designate across the entire city, or even or this is just the Akron school system? What about the Cleveland school system? Could you? It just
Can you get enough billionaires to support enough schools like this?
Yes. So I mean, whatever the great, I'm sure the outcomes are excellent, but I'm just saying, don't get your hopes up too high,
because you're not going to have enough money. Yeah.
Right. So. All right. So.
Yeah. So
what do we have now?
There's a newer one. Yeah. Here's a newer one from NPR.
Yeah.
The inaugural class of third graders at LeBron James supported I Promise School in Akron will soon start 8th grade. And for each of the last 3 school years, wait a minute, none of those students have scored proficient in Ohio's math proficiency test.
No,
None. Where I'm coming from is that we keep talking about the resources that we're putting into the I Promise School, and the kids at the other schools don't have anywhere near the same number of resources, and yet the difference there is that they're getting an education. They're actually doing okay. So what's going on?
So they're doing better.
They're doing better without the resources.
Without the resources, without the true wraparound support, without school opportunities, without regulating their emotions and development of self-awareness, without their dedication to love and care, because the principal said that the goal, which you would think would be to pass the tests.
Yeah.
No, the goal was never that. It was to teach students how to love.
Oh, to teach them how to love.
Yes, to teach them how to love.
Okay.
So apparently not to pass tests or learn math or reading.
Yeah, what's the square root of 9? Oh, it's I feel good.
Yeah. Yes. So
apparently not a single 8th grader at the I Promise School in LeBron started in Akron, Ohio, has passed their state math test in 3 years.
I have 8.2% of 7th graders were deemed proficient in English.
8.2?
Yes,
that's better than Baltimore.
Yeah, which was better than math, where there was 1% rate.
1%.
So
Wow.
this is.
So teaching love isn't teaching them to do math.
Granted, they took, troubled kids, but you'd expect something. You'd expect this level of resources. Interacting with the families, de-stressing, the love fest, the esteem boosting, is producing nothing, to the point where the school board members are like, for 3 years, not one child passed the state math test, not one for 3 years.
Well,
this is coming from the school system itself, which I'm sure was applauding this thing all along, but at some point they got to go, well, show me something.
Yeah, this is all very disturbing, but the one thing that's even more disturbing is I don't think we've said a word about this beer that we're drinking.
Yes. I'm halfway done.
Yeah, so what is this beer that we're drinking today, and why are we drinking it?
Yes, we are on our quest to find the most delicious non-alcoholic beer available for those who want to, choose to, have to.
Right, yes. And this is Sam Adams, and Sam Adams is a reliable brewer. I don't think I've had anything from Sam Adams that wasn't good.
Right.
And this is called Gold Rush, non-alcoholic golden, crisp, clean, and refreshing. It's supposed to be a golden lager, it says, with a subtle malt sweetness and German hop character.
I will give you the spicy German hop character. Malty sweetness is a little tough to find.
Yeah, not getting a lot of malty sweetness.
But
a little maltier than the Oktoberfest beer we had in another.
It is. That's because it's this fattening, big fat beer.
Yeah, 100 calories.
100 calories. Which is, Oktoberfest was 30.
Yeah.
And we have run across 10s. Actual.
Yeah, exactly. The Partake has has some that are 10 calories, which is just astonishing. I don't know how they do that.
Come on.
Yeah. But anyway, this one is perfectly nice. There's a tiny touch of citrus flavor to it. And it is clean and refreshing, but I'm not getting the malt sweetness.
I'm not either. But I'm
kind of liking it.
I'm kind of liking it. I'm probably, I don't know, we might be at 12 now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting it in the upper half.
Definitely in the upper half. Yeah. Yeah, it has a nice flavor to it.
Yeah.
But once again, it's missing something.
Yes, it is. That lovely ingredient.
Yes, it is.
Shall not be named.
You definitely, when you drink this, you say, there's something missing from this beer. But, given that, still. Okay, so
that's going to be the case with all of them.
this is supposed to be beer and conversation with Big Wheat and Girls.
Yes,
so now,
yes,
okay,
we got the beer part.
We got the beer part taken care of.
But gosh, and the glowing
Accolades, yeah, and everything else. Michelle Obama was saying that was praising him, saying he's a role model on and off the court, and apparently LeBron. I didn't know this until doing some research for this show. Apparently, LeBron is a bit of a social media or a social critic, and he does a lot of loudmouth talking.
Yes, it's a shame because here's a guy who is beloved by many.
Yeah.
Fantastic ball player,
Mm-hmm.
philanthropist, a guy who has turned his millions into billions.
Mm-hmm.
He's very savvy. He's taken, he's known how to develop his own image.
Yeah.
Smart guy. Why he needs to but it's hard to then weigh in on your victimhood and oppression.
Yeah.
And that gets a little old coming from a guy like that.
Yes. Yeah.
And so here he is, know-it-all and outspoken critic on social issues. Well, daggone it, I guess I have to take care of this myself.
Okay.
And and of course.
So why did this go wrong? What? I guess the one most obvious thing to me is resources are not the problem, because we spend an enormous amount of money already on resources for public schools.
It's
money doesn't do it. You can put a computer in every kid's lap, and buy them fancy uniforms and give them a filet mignon for lunch. It's not going to educate them.
No.
So what else has been? I didn't know about this. Teaching them to love was the goal. That was kind of interesting.
Well, there does seem to be a lot of emphasis on feelings and self-esteem, and we've talked about the.
Yeah, I don't remember anybody saying the word self-esteem.
Never.
Until I probably never even heard the concept until I was 17 or something. We never were taught anything about self-esteem. And I get the impression from this school that it's all about feeling positive about yourself. And actually there was a statistic I saw a couple of years ago where they measured American school students against school students in other countries.
Yes.
And the American school students tested awful in math and reading and everything else, but they tested very well in self-esteem. Like the Japanese kids didn't have any self-esteem, but they could do math.
Right, yeah. And it's like, so how'd you do? I got a 52. How do you feel about that? Pretty good. Really? Well, I'm probably not. You're not allowed to tell them you shouldn't, because the 52 sucks. You go, well, you feel good about it? Well, that's what's important, isn't it? And you tried.
Mm-hmm. I just, speaking about education and self-esteem, I was listening to have you ever listened to Hidden Brain?
Yes.
Yeah. I was listening to this Hidden Brain episode where this guy who studied psychology was talking about his experience with a couple of different mentors. And one of them, this professor, he had written this paper and turned it in, and he was walking by the professor's office, and the professor called out, Joe, or whatever the guy's name is, come in here. He comes in, and the professor takes the paper and holds it like at a distance and turns his head away and goes, "I think this is yours," and gives it back to him. And then he goes off and rewrites the paper,
right,
because it really wasn't up to standards, and worked on it like the whole rest of the weekend. Worked on it studiously, brought it back, turned it in, and then the professor came into his office, and apparently he was like a graduate student.
Okay.
Came into his office and set it down in front of him, put his hand on his shoulder, and said, "Now this is worth criticizing."
Okay. There you go.
Now, even that's not praise. You know,
No.
This is something.
No.
It's at least something worth taking your time to decide what's wrong with it.
But that
you know?
first smelly thing was
Yeah,
not even
it wasn't even worth criticizing. So bad it's not even wrong. Just like not even worth. But no concept of self-esteem, no concept of building it up and making them feel better. Just no. Here's some standards to follow.
Yeah, well, for those who say it's two things. It's it's either lack of funding or systemic racism,
Right.
that you have so many inner city failing schools.
Yeah. Well, none of those things are case in this. I promise.
None of these things are going on here.
Right.
I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I guess one thing to say is focusing on self-esteem is obviously not the answer. That throwing resources at something is obviously not the answer. He probably consulted with a bunch of education experts to figure out,
Yeah.
what to do. That's
Right.
not the answer.
No, because what he should have done was walk literally down the block to this high school that he graduated from,
Yeah.
which is a Catholic high school.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I understand that. Well, this actually makes the point. You can't compare the two because they're from such different backgrounds, which then makes the point.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the background. So
Yeah.
when these kids who are going to most likely church-going, financially stable homes because
Yeah.
they're paying this tuition,
Yeah.
are already they are going to succeed.
You have to have parents who are involved. You have to have parents who are encouraging stuff. You have to have books in the house. You have to have an environment at the home where parents are encouraging kids to do their homework, to read a book, to go to school. These Baltimore kids, they're only going to school one day every 2 weeks, and somehow the parents are not stopping that. So what this reminds me of is, it's kind of like the fatherless crisis that we have in the country right now. People say they want to address the problem of lack of fathers in the home, which is great. Yes, we should do that. It's going to take 40 years. It was 40 years in the making to make this problem.
Yeah.
It's going to be 40 years in the making to solve this problem.
Right.
You're not going to just all of a sudden pass a bill or start a new group and all of a sudden
Change the culture.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not going to happen. So in order to make these schools better, you can't just throw uniforms and tuition assistance at them. There has to be some other kind of a change.
Now, why did I get a smug little feeling when this was first announced?
Mm-hmm.
When they first said, "So, remember that school LeBron James started 5 years ago?"
Right.
Then they read this statistic. 5 years later, not one student there. There was a little schadenfreude. There was a little bit of
Rejoicing in someone else's failure. Yes.
Yeah. So I want to do a little self-analysis here.
Yeah.
This is what I've come up with.
Okay.
Is seeing bad ideas that should have been known to be bad before you even started fail gives me the hope that, well, maybe this is an example of what not to do, and we can turn and do the right thing.
Maybe somebody will learn.
And maybe somebody will learn.
So to me, the thing that needs to be learned is that good intentions don't make something work. I mean, LeBron, on the one hand, you have to say, well done.
Yes.
You spent a bunch of your money.
Yes.
You tried to give back.
He identified a problem. He didn't just write the check from his foundation.
Yeah.
He seemed to be actively involved.
He goes to the place. He visits the place. He's involved. He's invested.
And recognizing that this is what he wants part of his legacy to be beyond the billionaire basketball player. He's going to be doing other things, and this is really important to him. So he didn't half-ass it.
Right. So for all those things, well done. Great. So the problem, though, is you're grabbing a hold of this idea that what's keeping kids back is the wrong things. What's keeping them back is that they don't have uniforms, or what's keeping them back is that all these other things. No, what's keeping them back is probably the culture that they're living in, and they probably didn't have the kind of curriculum at the school that would help them to learn. I mean, for example, a lot of modern methods of teaching aren't very good, so
how about just good old Catholic school rote learning? Give me your times tables. I don't want to see how you can almost get the right answer with new math
and feel good about it.
Memorize it and be able to spit it back to me. Gosh, I watched the Man on the Street.
Mm-hmm.
People literally couldn't do 3 times 3 times 3. Even on college campuses.
Wow.
8 times 7. All right, if it takes you a while, if you have to use your fingers. But don't just guess, because
it's hard to do 8 times 7 on your fingers.
Well, I mean, you can get close. Is what I'm saying. Maybe you could do 7 times 7, because everybody knows those. Okay, and then what's one more? Okay, you get you there. Right. Not just go. You got me. What?
I'm not sure they would even know that 7 times 7 plus 7 is the same thing as 8 times 7.
Yeah, and these are college kids. I don't know what you're expecting from this sad bunch here, but again, fancy teaching methods. This is it. There's the board.
Yeah.
Write it 100 times.
That's what we did. Yeah, I distinctly remember the teacher going up on the blackboard, writing all the equations up on the board, and your job was to write them down and do them. Yeah. Right? And the thing I didn't like about school was the teacher would go up, write all the problems down on the blackboard, and I would write them down, do them, write them down, do them. She'd get to the end of the board, and I'd be done, and then she'd say, okay, you got a half an hour to do these.
Right.
It's like,
what were you guys doing while she was writing them down?
No, exactly. Everybody else is sitting around playing
waiting for her to finish, then start to write them down?
Yes.
So look, when I see my Schadenfreude goes up, when I see, did you see targets moving out of Seattle?
Yes.
Everywhere you would expect.
And you know what's going to happen?
They're moving out of Portland. They're moving out of Harlem. They're moving out of Oakland. They're moving out of San Francisco.
What's going to happen is they're going to get accused of racism.
Yeah, the grocery stores are moving out. Mm-hmm. They're all moving out, and I go good, mm-hmm. right, with a little smug satisfaction. Mm-hmm. But that's terrible for the people who live there. But how else is in a sort of, what did you think was going to happen?
Yes.
What did you think was going? What were your ideas? Your PhD level ideas. You got the PhD by writing a paper about how good this was going to be.
There is a enjoyment in watching the failure of smug, stupid liberal ideas.
Yeah.
There is definitely.
Now I realize that there's a body count involved,
yeah.
and other people are suffering along the way, and crime rates going up, and perfectly decent people who can't get out of those neighborhoods are now suffering from the defund the police. Mm-hmm. But again, what the hell did you think was going to happen? Yeah. And then so when it happens, the most obvious thing happens, mm-hmm. I can't help but take a little bit of pleasure in it, and feel bad about that.
Right.
But I can't stop myself.
Yes. So LeBron,
this is one of those cases. The rest, people who do have half the resources, are doing better than these kids.
Yes.
And I also saw, I don't have the stats with me. It's not just that. It's that. Well, one kid was beaten to death in the parking lot.
Oh, nice.
So that the violence in the school, kids are transferring out,
mm-hmm.
because you can't even provide basic safety, and has, I don't know if they have Baltimore levels of truancy, but very high truancy rates. So what exactly are you doing? I thought you were addressing these things. I don't know if you can send social workers to every home, but it sounds like that's what's going on. All the parents are invited in, and you're right. So there's got to be a higher level of communication.
Yeah.
So even if that doesn't even work, where are you left? Except saying, first off, don't come every year with your terrible statistics with hat in hand.
Yeah.
And say, the next politician gets hired when he promises to fix the problem by, even though you just recently had a 40% increase in the money spent.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be fooled by that. That's not the solution. And the other thing is in the belief of equity, or you go back to no child left behind.
Yeah.
Look, you can't start pumping all your resources into complete failures. Some people are going to be left behind.
So let me ask you a strategy question. Okay.
Yeah.
You've got 3 armies. You've got one army on the left, one army on the right, and you've got a third army in reserve. Okay. The army on the left is getting their butts handed to them. The army on the right is kicking butt. Where do you put your reserves?
Yeah, right.
The correct answer strategically is to move them in with the army that's winning, and finish that one up, and then go take care of the army that's losing. That's supposed to be the correct strategic answer. So my advice for LeBron James, rather than coming up with some brand new thing that you think is going to solve this problem, find places that are doing well and invest the money in them. Find schools that are doing well and try to expand on that.
You got it right. Think about how many of those kids you could have sent to private school with your $2 million.
Yes.
Which apparently just went to sprucing up the building and
Right.
hiring yoga instructors
And putting sayings on the wall and putting
beautiful
a statue.
sayings on the wall,
Right.
statues of himself.
Right. Yeah. So instead of doing this brand new thing that's your own great genius idea, find something that's actually working in the real world and put the money towards that. And then make a fraction of the difference.
But how many times do you get a brand new thing that costs $2 million that makes the problem worse, and the response is what?
We didn't pay enough. We needed to try harder.
Yeah, if we had $4 million,
Yeah.
it would have been successful.
Well, that's always the
You
answer.
actually made the problem worse with the $2 million. Yes, we didn't go far enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What?
That's right. It's like we tried this dumb thing and it fails. Well, we need to double down.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what it is.
you're already in there. What is that? The used car fallacy or the
Sunk cost
fallacy?
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I'm already in for $2 million. And you gotta fire everybody, and then everybody's gonna get mad. And
Yeah. All right. Well, LeBron, you're a great basketball player, and thank you for trying. But next time, talk to somebody who knows what they're doing.
yeah. Gosh. All right. Remember that time when you surprised me with James Carville as the man of the week?
I do. Yes.
I am going to surprise you with California
California as the what of the week?
as the man of the week.
California as the man of the week.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But I am talking about Huntington Beach, California.
Okay.
Which is basically in Los Angeles.
All right. They did something right.
California becomes first.
I think it should be on national news if someone in California did something right. That would...
So, remember in 2021 when California became the first state in the nation to announce COVID vaccine requirements for schools, right? So they're always out in front.
They are out in front.
They are always out in front, often for the worst reasons.
Yes.
But
Mm-hmm.
you don't tell them that.
Mm-hmm.
So my thought was, please tell me that after the madness was over, that people went to their state houses and said, all right, we're not doing that again.
Right.
Right? Emergency powers, the state can no longer do... Well, here we
That
have
would be nice.
2023.
Mm-hmm.
An entire American city has just voted to officially ban all future mask and vaccine mandates.
Okay.
Huntington Beach, California.
Mm-hmm.
Which is right there, it's right down the street from...
And Newsom's probably going to send the National Guard after him or something.
Well, yes. but they prevent. This is what I wanted to see more. Preemptive. How long does it take to get the legislature together? I know you need emergency powers if there's been a hurricane,
Yeah.
because everybody can't get there. But you can put on your little masks and go in. You can vote remotely. You can do whatever. If you want these kinds of powers, you have to go through the legislature, right? Just get rid of this idea that you. So, but these people, they went even further in Huntington Beach, California. They just officially voted to ban. You cannot mandate masks and vaccines.
Okay. Well, see, I'm not sure I agree with that, because there are situations where a vaccine should be mandated. I mean, there are diseases and things where the government did have to mandate a vaccine, like measles and mumps
Right.
and those kinds of things. So I'm not against having mandatory vaccines in general. I'm against having mandatory vaccines for COVID. It obviously was not necessary for COVID. But there are situations where a vaccine would be required.
Through the legislature.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, not with emergency powers.
Yeah.
Yes. But there certainly are times when the government should say everybody has to get this vaccine.
I mean, that's what the federal government did, right?
That's right.
They
Yeah.
didn't. They did. Congress didn't vote for these mandates and mandatory vaccines for all military and whatever else. Everything, really, right? The idea was every employer had to force
Yes.
mandates on any employer with more than 15 people or whatever the number was.
Yes. Yeah, well, what we did with COVID was obviously, in retrospect, really stupid. And I hope some people are learning, and it sounds like these guys are. And that's
I like a little preemptive action.
Yes.
Good for you, Huntington Beach.
all right. Well done.